It's time once again for Rush Limbaugh, the television show. Glad you're with us, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to day 57 of the Raw Deal, the Clinton administration hostage crisis. I have a bit of news about the Clinton administration tonight, and my opinion of your reaction to it comes up later on in the program. By the way, many of you people may be wondering, why is Rush there violating fashion standards? Fashion says button the jacket, especially when one is of my girth. It's not big, not as big as it used to be, but buttoning it seems to have the trimming, as you can see, it does. Now, the reason why is because I have this gorgeous tie, but the business of this tie is down here. And if I button up, you won't see it. And I want you to see it. Why wear it on television if not for you to see it? So hence the loose, casual look tonight. Here's what's on our program. This, you've all seen this if you watch the news. This is the cover of Tuesday's New York Post. Alexander Hamilton founded the New York Post in 1801, and it's really hilarious what's going on there. He's crying in this picture. You can see a tear coming from his right eye. How many of you have always wanted to tell your boss exactly what you think of him? Take control of the business and do it your way. And part of doing it your way is telling the boss what a screwball he is. Well, the people who work at the New York Post did it. This edition of the New York Post, you have to go to page 50 to find any news that took place outside the New York Post building. This is one of the funniest pieces of business ever. Now, you've seen this, and you've seen interviews with some of the Post staffers, but you haven't seen what's inside this. We're going to show you on our show today. It's hilarious. Don't miss this. On our show tonight, ladies and gentlemen, also, we're going to talk about a man who people have called insane, crazy, a crackpot, a wacko, a nutcase, stupid, dangerous, irrelevant, and asinine. And it isn't Ross Perot. It's the guy who owns the New York Post. Also, if we have a chance tonight, this is Raymond Burr, and he symbolizes the law. And the law is something that a lot of people are paying no attention to as the Rodney King trial. It's actually not that. It's the civil rights trial of the 4 LA cops takes place. And I'm going to do my best tonight, and it's admittedly going to be tough to do on TV, but that's what I do, folks. I take on the tough challenges. They say it can't be done, I do it, and do it well, better than anybody else ever has. Then they say, well, it won't last. That was 5 years ago. And they'll be saying that 25 years from now. I'm going to try something tonight. It's not revolutionary, it's just a way of presenting information. I'm going to try it tonight because it's too important what's going on in this trial. The law has been forgotten about. And I need to tell you about the testimony that took place yesterday, on actually Tuesday, the first day that the defense began. See, let me tell you how this trial works. On the opening day, both sides make their presentations, oral arguments after jury selection. And then what we have is the prosecution, and they present their case. And if you relate that to a baseball game, the prosecution goes up for all 8 innings at one time. And they take their swings, and after 8 innings, they're through. The press reports it as a, wow, major scores are being made here. At the same time, the other guys haven't even gone up to bat yet. Then the defense, when they started yesterday, they go to bat, and they do their 8 innings. And the press coverage of this is obviously going to be tinged. If it went day to day, prosecution one day, defense the next day, the press coverage would be more representative of what's really going on. My point, as you heard me say the other day, we can't judge what's going on in this courtroom based on what we see on television. And I'm going to try to show you what the defense did in their first day and give you an idea just how this trial may be going. And that's our 4th monitor here. This is the Clinton stuff if we get to it. Well, hey, I've had a change of heart about the Clinton. I mean, you people, you want to pay taxes. There we are. I mean, I look at the polls. You don't see anything wrong with this plan. You don't care that you're being lied to. You don't care it's going to cost you a lot of money. You think it's good. Fine. I'm ready to join you. I'll pay taxes too. I can afford it. Can you? Don't go away. The rest of our show is right after this break. We'll be back. Welcome back. All right, let's just go straight to this New York Post stuff because time's always short on this show. We do it fast. You got to watch fast. Let's show them, Chet, the owners. Well, actually, the guy on the left is the nutcase, according to people who work for him. I'm not weighing in on this. I don't know, Abe, but I'm content to let them be the judge. On his right there, on his left, you're right, that is Wilbert Tatum. And you'll see his name prominently here in a moment. Wilbert Tatum publishes a weekly in New York aimed at the black community called the Amsterdam News. He has absolutely no respect in the journalistic community as the editor-in-chief of the paper now, because old Abe brought him in. Now let's just show you what's inside. You haven't seen any of this. Keep in mind what this is. The owner buys the paper, and the employees go at a press conference. You're nuts! You're certifiable! You're a wacko! You're despicable! You're sleaze! They're telling the owner of this. I mean, we would all love to do this. And this guy smiles and says, thank you. And lets them get away. Now, they took control of the paper. Now, put up that first picture here, Chet. An urgent appeal to Post readers. Help! This is inside. This is page 2. This is the staff urging the readers to help out somehow. And then that headline about is the Post petering out. The first thing that Abe Hirschfeld did was fire the editor, Pete Hamill. That picture is the cover of the Monday paper, which they didn't get out because of all the tumult. Look at that. Post staff to Abe Hirschfeld. Get lost. Reporters, editors outraged over planned layoffs. This is the staff telling the owner of the paper in his own, it's his paper, it's not theirs, to get lost. All right, Chet, put the next one up. Who is this nut? That's a headline about the owner of the paper, Abe Hirschfeld. There is a picture of him spitting on a reporter in Miami because he didn't like her question. Now, what you can't see, keep that up there, Chet. It's a powerful photo. I want to read you the caption of the picture. Yuck! Miami Herald reporter Bonnie Weston turns away in disgust after finding herself a wearing of the green in the form of a Wait a minute. In the form of a slimy hawk of Abe Hirschfeld. Oh, I mean, this is juicy stuff. This is great. Of Abe Hirschfeld's opinion of her coverage of his political campaigns and his ownership of the Clarion Castle Hotel down in Florida. Now, put that back up. Put it back up. Put the next one back up. Well, I don't... There's one... Hang on just a sec. There's one... Can you go back to the previous... There. Part of her job was taking a gob from Angry Slob. That is about the owner of the paper. So far, every headline has been about the owner of the paper. Not one bit of news. Nothing that's gone on in New York, nothing that's gone on in the nation, nothing that's gone on in the world, all of what's gone on inside the New York Post building. All right, turn the page. It's adios ads if terrible two take over. That's the Post staff saying, we're going to lose all of our advertisers if these nutcases move in here. There's a picture of the editor, Pete Hamill, who's been fired. He doesn't matter. He went back to his job anyway. We're coming to that in just a second. Jack Newfield has written a column, one of the staffers, honest, Abe doesn't know spit about journalism. You know, this stuff is just choice. Roll to the next one. Hate twins' plans for news are noose to us. That's Mark Kriegel, and I have had dinner with him one night, and he's a columnist there. Used to be in sports, has now moved into the general interest of news. But again, hate twins. They're talking about Abe Hirschfeld and Tatum, the owner and the boss. How many of us could do this? How about if on this show I put up a picture of the people who are the quote-unquote bosses and launched for a half hour into what slime balls they are, into what slime buckets they... I mean, it would be the last time I did it anywhere, don't you think? These guys, I mean, they're heroes in New York. This is... Everybody's wanted to do this. Put another one up there. Hatem Tatum, ready for slime time. Now, that's Abe Hirschfeld kissing his editor-in-chief, Wilbert Tatum. We're on page 5 now of the paper, folks. Hatem Tatum. Now, the reason why they say this about Hatem Tatum is because in his paper, he's the only newspaper in the country that believes Tawana Brawley's story. The only one. He's also the only paper in the country that published the name of the Central Park jogger who was raped. He's the only paper, his is the only paper in the country which thinks that it was the Central Park rapists who got the raw deal. And Abe Hirschfeld hires this guy to bring him in to be editor-in-chief. So put that back up there, Chet. That explains the headline, Hatem Tatum ready for slime time. That's a takeoff on prime time, and since he's only a weekly that nobody reads, the Post is considered a big move up for this guy. And then that next headline there is Assemblyman will boycott Post if Wild Bill is the editor. That's a story by Fred Dicker. Now let's go to page 6. Now, we haven't put all of page 6, but page 6 is the paper that is the page that most people buy this paper for in New York. It's the gossip page. It's where the celebrity news really is. Look at the cartoon. There's an editorial cartoon on this page every day. That's the owner. That's Abe Hirschfeld in a straitjacket in a padded cell. It's the owner of the paper. Every story on this page is a story about somebody who hates the owner. And the one that we've shown you, put it back up there, Chet. The one we've shown you it's a story about William Kennedy Smith. And it's, in addition to naming the Central Park jogger, Bill Tatum also named the victim in the Smith rape case down in Palm Beach, and it goes on and on. There are other stories about Jackie Mason hates the guy, also ran Abe, loses another one, blocked that pics, pay up Abe, Koch versus Tatum, dial B for Bill, just choice stuff. Now they asked old Abe, what do you think of this? Hey, I'm the first New Yorker to get 8 pages, full page in the Post, and they spelled my name right. I love it. And that's the owner. This is Ratchet. Now, you know something else. This, just to show you at the New York Post, this issue that I'm showing you is the largest selling issue in Post history. And there's no news in it. There's no news. It's all about Abe Hirschfeld. Let's go to the next page. Tatum's paper, fans race hatred. That's a story about his current paper, the Amsterdam News. There's a column, a story, Ed Koch, I won't work for him. Koch does a weekly column in the Post, and that letter that you see is a letter actually written to him, from him to Abe, in which he's demanding back payment for previously written columns. It's like 12 grand. He gets a guy gets $1,000 a week, dollars a week, and hasn't been paid. Next page. Now this is a story where they really take out after Tatum. Jogger raped again in Amsterdam News. And this is a story they attempted not to defame the character, the credentials, the journalistic integrity of their boss. I mean, turn to the next page. Let's look at the 4-letter word for Abe, fit to print, liar. This is the boss again, folks. This is the owner. Slime time for Hatem Tatum. Who is this nut who's taken the Post hostage? On this show, of course, the hostage taker is Clinton. And down there, it's the owner of the paper. So that's it. That's it. I think this is a collector's issue. This is Dick Mintzer's, our producer. You better hold on to this thing because it's a collector's issue. And we've got to take a break because we're way over time here. We'll come back and try to squeeze in whatever's next. Don't go away. This is what I referred to earlier, that this is a tough challenge. I have something in front of me. I don't have any video to show you. I'm just going to have to read some things to you. We'll show you some still shots, but this is important, ladies and gentlemen. It's about the trial of the 4 L.A. cops. You've got to understand what's going on in this trial. This is not a trial about excessive force anymore. It's not a trial of a simple assault. This is a trial about whether or not Rodney King's civil rights were violated. For that to be proved, the prosecution has to convince the jury that these cops did what they did because of racism and they wanted to violate King's civil rights. And it's almost impossible to prove this. But if you watch the press every day, read the accounts in the paper after the prosecution has just presented its case, you would think, man, they're going to win this time. I'm reading the paper, man. They're scoring points and they're doing all this. And you're not getting a complete picture. Remember what I said. You can't judge, as the jury can, all the evidence by reading a paper or watching television. I want to take the limited amount of time I have, try to tell you a little bit about the first day of defense testimony, the first day they presented their case. First witness, Officer Susan Clemmer. She arrived at the scene shortly after King was subdued on March 3rd, 1991. She said that she encountered an agitated Lawrence Powell, very, very heavily breathing and walking around in circles like he was disoriented. Clemmer quotes Officer Powell saying, "I was scared. He threw me off his back. King threw me off his back. I thought that I was going to shoot him." Now here we have a presentation by a defense witness, an officer. Not of a man who's happy at what he's done and wants to show off his trophy, but a guy who's upset and stressed out and thought that he might have had to shoot the guy. Powell The other cops, Sergeant Stacy Kuhn, Theodore Bissonneau, and Timothy Wind, are accused of violating King's civil rights. Now remember, when King testified last week, he admitted that he led the police on the high-speed chase, said he was trying to avoid arrest because he feared being sent back to prison for parole violations. But he said he tried to comply with police commands after the pursuit ended and was beaten before he had a chance to obey. Now, he tried to comply. We've shown you the video on this show where he jumps up off the ground and lunges at a cop. That's hardly compliance. Now, whether it was right or wrong that he got beaten, you got to hear this as the jury's hearing this, and they watch a tape and they see King say this. Here comes the defense saying, well, wait a minute. Here's the guy. He's not complying here. Reasonable doubt. All they need. Paul Beauregard, Los Angeles Unified School District officer who joined in the pursuit of King, said that King responded with a blank stare to Kuhn, Officer Kuhn's commands for him to get on the ground and put his hands at his side. Responded, there's Kuhn there, blank stare. Beauregard described how Kuhn shot King with a taser. Said King gave a growl like when you lift weights when the darts from the gun hit, but that they didn't seem effective. Usually, said Beauregard, persons who are hit by taser darts, quote, curl up into a ball, they drop to the floor and don't have any other motor functions at all. But King stayed on one knee, clenching his fist and sort of vibrating. It goes on. Let's go back to Officer Clemmer. She said that King laughed in a low voice after the beating. At Kuhn's orders, she accompanied King and Wind in an ambulance to a nearby hospital. On the way, she said, King called her an obscenity and spit blood on her. She said in the hospital that King laughed a little bit more and said to Kuhn, I love you. Now, this is important because they've tried to make the case here that King was on PCP. And all they've got to do is show testimony from witnesses who had experience with PCP suspects, and they've got a good way of doing it. Now, the thing also that you don't know is that there is an instructional film in the LAPD that shows other officers how to deal with suspects on PCP. The film stars Officer Stacy Kuhn because he's an expert at it. He's so good at it. Now, you present this to the jury, and here you've got reasonable doubt. The cross-examination, we're running out of time. The only story, this is the Washington Post story. I read the New York Times account. The prosecution's cross-examination, the only question that apparently the reporters think noteworthy is this one from Barry Kowalski, a Justice Department attorney, who asked a city councilman, is it true that the LAPD used to have chokeholds as part of the procedure, but they got rid of them because black people got killed? You say, what's that got to do with this? It's the only chance the prosecution has. They've somehow got to get race in this or they have no case. Now, I've spent, 4 minutes telling you this? 4 minutes. This took all day to go on. And you probably haven't, you don't even know as much as I've told you now. This is a great day for the defense. Great day. They probably have won this already. Just with this one day. Press isn't telling you that. But keep it in mind as this trial goes on and you listen to the outcome. We got to go. We'll be back in just a minute. Don't go away. Now look, folks, I know you're going to be disappointed we're not going to get to Clinton stuff, but look, all we had was the latest rounds of lies, falsehoods, and untruths. You can do that any day with this administration. I want to summarize the Rodney King business because I don't want to leave any misconceptions. I'm like you. I watched the videotape of the beating that we've all seen, and I say, stop it, stop it. I'm not defending what the cops did. I'm trying to keep everybody reminded of just what the trial's about. If some of these prosecutors would simply go for the charge of simple assault, these guys would be out of the department and up the river. But they're not doing that. They're moving in for this huge, big kill. And they've given themselves an almost impossible burden. And I think that it is impossible for people to have a thorough understanding of what's going on in the courtroom since there are no cameras there. And if you've kept up with this, you've had 9 straight days of the prosecution's really scoring points, so your expectations are probably way up that finally we're going to get a conviction. And we may. Never know what the jury's going to do. But the defense has their time now, and they've got a lot of ammo, and they're going to be able to create a reasonable doubt very easily. And that's what we have to hold on to, the presumption of innocence and the reasonable doubt. So that's our show for tonight. It's great as always, wasn't it? We'll have another one soon. Don't go away.